If you want to know a man, watch how his house wakes up with him. Mine greets me with soft pops in the wood and a long sigh in the vents, like we're old friends stretching together. Then I open my eyes and there she is, Esther, smiling from the frame on my bedside table. That is how my day begins, the same way it has for years. Every morning is like the one before it, and that suits me. My 78 years are no reason to break a habit that has held me steady. I still rise at 6 Ma, the way I've done for 5 decades. I no longer climb into a truck in the dark and point the hood at another state. Those runs are behind me, but my body hasn't read that memo. I get up anyway. Now I'm just an old man with a paid-off house on a quiet street in Hawaiian Gardens and a life that plods along like a faithful dog. People tolerate that. I do more than tolerate it. I need it. Sleep in the smallest bedroom. I chose it after Esther passed. It's the only spot in the house where I feel tucked in and safe. The big room makes me feel lost now. Here, the lamp is close, the chair doesn't wobble, and the night doesn't seem so wide. Esther's picture is the first thing I see when I blink awake. She's laughing in that way she had, eyes pinched at the corners. She died last year. Lung cancer. 3 months from the first test to the last goodbye. Too fast for me. Too slow for her. "Good morning, Esty," I tell the glass, like always, and I wait for an answer I know will not come. When I stand, the house stands with me. It clicks and groans the way I do. By feel, this place and I are the same age. They built it in the 70s when Hawaiian Gardens was still mostly dirt and plans, not lawns and mailboxes. It isn't modern, not by a long shot, but it's strong. I fed a bank for 32 years to keep these walls. I made the last payment 1 year before I retired. That day was one of the best of my life. Right after the day I put a ring on Esther's hand and the day they put our baby girl Priscilla in mine. I keep the kitchen just the way Esther left it. I don't shuffle the spice rack. I don't move her pots to better shelves. If I change it, I lose her. Breakfast is simple, the way she made me promise when my stomach turned fussy. A bowl of oatmeal, 1 slice of toast, a cup of strong black coffee. She never liked the coffee part. "Alfred," she would say, one hand on her hip, "that stuff will punch your clock early." Now I drink it out of spite, as if I can win an argument with a ghost. But who am I proving anything to now? When the mug is empty, I step out front and check the garden. That little strip by the sidewalk is my pride. Esther tended it for years, but when her knees failed her 5 years ago, I took over. The hard spots on my palms used to be from steering. Wheels. Now they come from shovels and pruners. People walking their dogs stop to stare at the rose bed. They ask about soil and sun and when to cut things back. That feels good. Today, my neighbor to the right, Irwin Hall, leaned over the fence with his usual grin. He's in his 50s, works from his living room doing computer magic, and he helps me when the TV decides to act like a stranger. "Morning, Alfred. Those roses have outdone themselves this year," he called. "Morning, Irwin," I answered, straightening slow. "It isn't the fertilizer, it's patience." I brushed dirt from my hands. "How have you been? Did Priscilla make it by on Sunday?" I made a small shrug, the kind that hopes a subject will float away. Irwin got it and gave a little nod. He's one of the only people who sees things plain between my daughter and me and doesn't feel the need to paint over them. He won't poke where it hurts. I appreciate that. By afternoon, I decided to do what I call a good cleaning, even if my back calls it something else. I don't bend well and I shouldn't lift heavy, but I won't pay a stranger to do what I can still do, slow and steady. While dusting the big dresser in the living room, my elbow clipped a stack and a photo album slid open on the rug. It landed on a page with Priscilla in her college years. Books under one arm, a grin that could light a whole block. She was always sharp, won a scholarship, studied finance. I was proud down to my boots when she landed at Hartley Construction as an accountant. A solid job, a steady paycheck. Not like my long runs from one coast to the other, sleeping in truck stops and eating eggs at dawn. In that picture, she's wrapped around Esther, cheek pressed to her shoulder, happy in a way a picture can't. Lie about. She was still our little girl then, not the woman who stares around my rooms as if the walls are a column in a ledger. How much, how soon, how to move it. It stung me, that thought, and right then the phone rang. Priscilla's name lit the screen. "Hi, Daddy," she said, voice clipped and businesslike, the way you talk when you stand in a hallway at work. "How are you doing in there?" "Fine," I said. I have never been a talker. She knows that. "Noel and I will stop by at 4Y on Sunday," she went on. "We'll bring dinner from Olive Garden." "No need," I said. "I'll cook myself." Silence. I could see her in my mind, rolling her eyes at the ceiling like the ceiling had done something to her. "Daddy, you don't have to cook. It's a burden." "I'm not 90, Priscilla," I told her. "I can make supper for my own daughter." Another pause. A sigh that sounded tired. "All right then. Sunday at 4A. And Daddy, we wanted to talk about something serious." There it was. The same talk. The one about how a house is too much for one old man. About care and supervision and great facilities, with smooth floors and soft chairs and people to push you when you sit. "I'll see you Sunday," I said, and I put the phone down before her next sentence could try to move me from my chair. After lunch, I slid the bookcase forward an inch. Not enough for a visitor to notice. Just enough for my hand to find the space I made there years ago. I pulled out a thick brown envelope. 3 weeks back, I sat in Mr. Patterson's office under a framed picture of a sailboat and signed papers with a pen that felt too heavy. He's handled our family matters for 20 years. A good man. Doesn't talk too much. He went over every page, tapped lines with his finger, and gave me that look lawyers give when they don't like to see someone jump. "Are you sure about this, Mr. Tanner? It's a big step. Maybe speak with your daughter first." "I know my daughter better than anyone," I told him. "And I know my son-in-law. Talking won't help." He nodded like he's heard that. More times than he cares to count. A timeless story. Old men feeling let down, children counting before the bell rings. It made me sad to be part of it, and mad too. I slid the envelope back into its cave. "Not yet," I told it. "Soon." Evenings drag. When Esther was here, we sat side by side in the front room as the light pulled itself thin and the day closed up shop. She knitted or read recipes she knew by heart anyway. I watched the game or unfolded the paper wide and pretended to be absorbed by things far away. We didn't always talk. We didn't need to. It was a warm quiet, the best kind. Now the quiet gets sharp at the edges and presses on my ears until I have to do something about it. So I put Frank Sinatra on the old record player, or Nat King Cole, because she loved both. The music fills the air and makes the walls feel soft, but when the last notes die, the room goes right back to hollow. Today, I decided to pull out the old tapes we had digitized, the thing Esther kept after me about for months. "When we're gone, Priscilla should be able to see who we were," she said, "not just hear stories." I didn't believe our girl would ever take the time, but I didn't argue. I never won an argument with Esther anyway. There on the screen, popped up our living room from another century. Priscilla at 6, hair tied in 2 lopsided ponytails, birthday banners drooping from tape. Esther comes in from the kitchen with a cake like a lighthouse, candles flickering. I'm the one behind the camera, breathing loud like I'd run upstairs. Little Priscilla claps and bounces, her eyes all sparkles. She used to live like that, bright, open. When did it change? Was it those harder teen years? Was it the college push? Or was it after she met Noel? Noel Barnett came into our world 23 years ago, ironed and polished, with a smile that never slipped and a watch that cost more than my first truck did. Administrator at a private clinic. Esther said he was reaching for more. He always was. A better title, a nicer car, a bigger place. Something in me did not like the way he scanned a room. It felt like he was weighing everything on a scale in his head. I kept my mouth shut. It was Priscilla's choice. Esther saw it too, that thinness, but she touched my arm and said, "As long as he treats her right and she's happy, we bless it." Does he make her happy? I don't know. Lately, Priscilla seems tight, like a rubber band about to snap. Maybe it's just the number 49 turning over in her mind. That age makes people take stock. I did it. Esther did it. Life gets loud then. After Esther died, my front door opened less. They used to show up every other Sunday. Now I count myself lucky if I see them once a month. And when they come, Priscilla can't help herself. The house shows up in the first 5 minutes. "Daddy, are you sure you can keep up with the garden? We could hire someone," she'll say, eyes already on the hedge. "That roof won't last forever. Are you saving for the repairs?" She'll ask, tapping her phone. "Have you thought about something smaller? This place is too big for one person," she'll press, as if I haven't lived alone here long enough to know my own steps. Noel just nods along, all concern on the outside, all numbers on the inside. I watch his gaze take the temperature of the rooms. He lingers on the old clock my father gave me. He notices the hairline crack in one kitchen tile I've been meaning to fix. He talks about the lawn like he owns a measuring tape that tells the future. Last month, they thought I had dozed off in my chair, but the TV was on low and I heard them in the kitchen. "We need to talk to him about a nursing home," Priscilla said, voice sharp like she'd been saying it to herself already. "He can't live here alone. It's not safe." "Of course, dear," Noel murmured. "It's for his own good. Besides, the house could go on the market. Prices are climbing on this street." I didn't sit up and tell them I could hear every word. What would it change? They've drawn their map. They plan to walk it. But I have my own map, and it sits in a brown envelope behind a book. That thought held me through the rest of that day. That night I stared at the ceiling a long time. The shadows made shapes I used to ignore. The roof whistled at the edge where the seal isn't tight anymore. That's another thing on my list. The house is not perfect. The roof seeps in heavy storms. The floorboards sing when you walk at night. But it's ours, mine and Esther's. Our life lives in these corners. This is the house where Priscilla learned to run on new legs and skinned both knees. A house where we fought and made up and ate ice cream in winter. This is the bedroom where Esther said her last words to me and held on until she couldn't. At last I slept, but not easy. I dreamed of Esther when she was young. She wore the blue dress from Priscilla's 6th birthday, the one with tiny white flowers at the collar. She stood by the kitchen door and moved her mouth, like she was telling me something important, but it was like watching through water. I couldn't hear her. I woke damp and breathing fast. The clock on the dresser glowed 3 a.m. I shuffled to the kitchen, filled a glass, and watched the quiet street through the window, the way the orange streetlight makes the trees look like paper. That was when I made up my mind for good. On Sunday, after they say their piece, I'll get the envelope. I'll lay it on the table. I'll show them old Alfred Tanner still has a clear head and a firm hand, and I'll have the last word. My eyes wouldn't shut again, so I let my mind walk back to the day I brought Esther here for the first time. It was 1973. We were newly married. The house was almost new then, barely 2 years old, paint still smelling like paint, floorboards not yet worn smooth by our steps. Hawaiian Gardens was mostly empty lots and ideas back then. You could look across and see scrub and sky, not shingles and satellite dishes. "Alfred, it's beautiful," Esther said, turning slow in the small living room with those wide front windows that still let the afternoon do what it wants. She smiled that smile that always made my heart bang around like a loose hammer. "It's a 30-year mortgage," I warned, half proud, half scared, "but we can carry it." "Of course," "We will," she said, and she wrapped her arms around my neck like we were both taller than we were. "Just think what will happen in these rooms in 30 years. She was right. Everything happened under this roof. Priscilla's birth, bundled and red-faced, her first steps across this hallway, straight into a table leg because our girl has always been fast. Her first word, truck, not mom or dad. Stubborn from the start, our Priscilla. Her high school years, her graduation, her wedding. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. The dreams of Esther were becoming more vivid as the anniversary of her death approached. It was like she was trying to remind me of something important. That day, a year ago, still stood before my eyes as if it had happened yesterday. The hospice offered to take her away, but Esther wanted to die at home. I insisted, even though Priscilla was against it. "Dad, you can't do this alone. You're not a medical professional. Hospice will take care of Mom with professionals. Your mother wants to be home," I said, "and I'll be there for her until the end." We hired a nurse during the day when I needed to go out for groceries or medicine, but I spent my nights with Esther, sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, telling stories from our long 52 years together. She smiled even when the pain became unbearable. That last day, she hardly spoke at all. Her breathing was heavy, labored. I never left her side for a minute. Priscilla stopped by in the afternoon, sat for half an hour, and left. Work emergency. Noel didn't even come in. He stayed, waiting in the car. In the evening, Esther opened her eyes and looked at me as clearly as if the illness had receded. "Alfred," her voice was barely audible. "Promise me something. Anything." I leaned closer. "Don't let them take your home away from you. This is our home, our life." I was surprised. Esther never talked about material things on her deathbed. "What are you talking about, Esty?" "Just promise." She squeezed my hand with unexpected strength. "The house should go to someone who will love it as much as we do. I promise," I said, though I wasn't quite sure what she meant. She smiled, closed her eyes, and never opened them again. 3 hours later, she was gone. Quietly, without agony, just as she had wanted. Later, going through her things, I found a diary. Esther kept it for the last year of her life. I didn't want to read it. It felt like an invasion of her privacy. But one entry made a month before she died caught my eye. Priscilla started talking about the house again, asked if we had updated the will. I can see her looking at our house, not as a family nest, but as an asset. Noel is already planning how they will sell it and buy something in an upscale neighborhood. They don't even think about Alfred, where he'll go, how he'll live. Our daughter has changed. Or maybe I just didn't want to see what she had become. I'm scared to leave Alfred alone. Not because of his age, but because of them. Then I realized what Esther had asked me to do before she died. In the first weeks after the funeral, Priscilla and Noel visited me often, bringing me food, checking, to see how I was doing. Priscilla even offered to move in for a while, but I refused. I needed to be alone to get used to the emptiness of the house, to the silence broken only by the ticking of the clock and the creaking of the floorboards. But gradually their visits became less and less frequent. First once a week, then once a fortnight, and now once a month if I was lucky. But the talk about my future and the house became more and more insistent. In March, 3 months after Esther's death, Priscilla brought brochures about nursing homes. "Daddy, I found a great place, Sunny Acres. It has everything you need. Medical staff, senior. Activities, 3 meals a day, and it's only 20 minutes away from Null and me." I flipped through the glossy pages with pictures of smiling old men playing chess or sitting in chairs in front of the TV. "How much does it cost?" I asked, although money was not the main issue. I had a pension and savings. "It's not cheap," Priscilla admitted. "But we can sell the house. The proceeds would be enough money to live there for many years. Here it is. First direct mention of selling the house." "I'm not going anywhere," I said, handing her back the brochures. This is my house. I'm going to die here like your mother. Dad, be reasonable. You're 78. You can't live alone in a house this big. What if you fall? What if something happens at night? I have a telephone and the neighbors are looking out for me. Neighbors, she snorted. You can't count on the neighbors, Daddy. They have their own lives. We parted on a tense note that day. Priscilla was irritated by my stubbornness, I by her insistence. In April, she and Noel arrived unannounced. I was just working in the garden, pruning the rose bushes that Esther loved so much. Daddy, we were driving by and thought we'd stop by. Priscilla kissed me on the cheek. She smelled of the expensive perfume Noel gave her every Christmas. Mr. Tanner, how are you feeling? Noel shook my hand with his soft palm. He'd never worked physically, and it felt like it. Fine, I replied, as laconic as ever. We walked into the house. I put the kettle on, took out the cookies I'd baked yesterday. Esther had taught me to cook in the early years of our marriage. A man should be able to take care of himself if something happens to me. At the time, I'd laughed at her foresight. Now, I was grateful. While I fiddled in the kitchen, Noel strolled through the living room, stopping at a bookcase or a dresser full of pictures. His gaze slid over the walls, the furniture, the ceiling. I saw him discreetly run his finger over the wooden surface of the table, checking for dust. Nice house, he said, when I returned with the tray. Sturdy, but the roof looks like it's going to need replacing soon, doesn't it? Maybe in a year or two, I said, pouring the tea. And it will cost a lot of money. He looked meaningfully at Priscilla. That's what we wanted to talk about, Daddy, she said. It's getting more and more expensive to keep the house. Taxes are going up. Repairs are needed. I have savings, I interrupted. But why spend it on a house that's too big for you? Noel smiled, his professional clinic administrator's smile. It would be wiser to invest that money in a comfortable stay in a specialized facility. I drank my tea in silence, not wanting to continue this conversation. Dad, we're worried about you. Priscilla put, her hand on my shoulder. You're getting older. What if you get sick? Who will take care of you? I'll take care of myself. I always have, but that's not the solution, Daddy. She raised her voice. You can't be so stubborn. We want what's best. What's best for whom, Priscilla? For me or for you? Her face stiffened. For a moment, she looked like Esther. The same tilt of her head. The same expression in her eyes when she was annoyed but tried to hide it. For you, of course. Noel interposed. You're all Priscilla and I think about. I gave him a long look. In the 23 years he'd been married to my daughter, I'd never heard a sincere word from him. Everything was rehearsed. Polished like his shoes, always. Polished to a shine. Last week, I decided to stop by my daughter's house, unannounced. I'd forgotten my blood pressure pills, and Priscilla kept a spare pack in case I stayed the night. Their house was about 15 minutes away. I parked and noticed that both cars were parked in the driveway. The door was unlocked. In our quiet suburb, many people didn't bother with locks during the day. Priscilla? I called out, entering the hallway. No, the voices came from the kitchen. They were arguing about something without hearing my footsteps. But this is crazy, Noel. Priscilla's voice sounded annoyed. $350,000 for a house in this condition. The realtor said it wouldn't be worth more than $300, even with cosmetic repairs. But the location, honey, Giovanna's Gardens, is becoming an upscale neighborhood. In 5 years, prices will goop even more. 5 years from now, we can't wait that long. We won't have to. As soon as the house passes to us, we'll put it on the market. I froze in the doorway. They were sitting at the kitchen table, bent over some papers, not noticing me. But Dad's being stubborn. He doesn't want to move into a nursing home. Priscilla sighed. What if he lasts another 10 years? He's tough like all the Tanners. Honey, Noel covered her hand with his. We'll find a way to convince him. After all, it's a matter of his safety and well-being. If he really loves you, he'll agree to move, and if he doesn't, then we'll have to be more forceful. There are legal avenues. We can prove that he's unable to care for himself on his own." I coughed. They raised their heads at the same time. Priscilla's face was horrified, but Noel quickly managed his surprise and put on his usual smile. "Mr. Tanner, what a nice surprise. Daddy, why didn't you call?" Priscilla hastily gathered the papers from the table. "I forgot my pills." I pointed to the empty box in my hand. "You must have a spare." "Sure, I'll get some." She rushed out of the kitchen, leaving Noel and me alone. "How long? Have you been standing there?" he asked, still smiling. "Long enough." We looked into each other's eyes. For the first time in all the years we'd known each other, there was complete understanding between us. He knew what I heard. I knew he knew. Priscilla came back with the pills. "Here, Daddy, are you staying for lunch?" "No." I took the package. "I have things to do." I walked out without turning around. I got in the car and sat for a long time without starting the engine. My hands were shaking, not from age, but from anger. They spoke of me as an obstacle to their plans, as if I was already dead, and all that was left was to formally bury me. On the drive home, I realized Esther was right. They shouldn't have the house, not after everything I'd heard. Not after the way they planned to dispose of what Esther and I had spent a lifetime creating. I knew what I had to do, and I needed the advice of a lawyer. Sunday came all too quickly. I got up at 5 in the morning, even though Priscilla and Noah weren't due until 4. Old habits don't die. Get up early. Go to bed early. That's the way my father lived. That's the way I've lived all my chauffeuring career. The road doesn't forgive the sleepy, my first partner used to say. After breakfast, I started to prepare for dinner. I decided to make a roast from Esther's mother's recipe, the only dish Priscilla had loved as a child. Maybe it would awaken some warm memories in her, though admittedly, I no longer believed that there was anything left in my daughter of the girl Esther and I had raised. The meat had to marinate for at least 6 hours, so I did it right after breakfast. I cut the beef into large chunks, rubbed it with spices, and poured red wine and olive oil over it. Esther always added rosemary from our garden. I cut off a few sprigs, too. While the meat was marinating, I tidied up the house. Not that it was a mess. I kept it clean daily, but today, I wiped down every surface, vacuumed all the carpets, even washed the windows in the living room. Not for Priscilla and Noel, but for myself. To keep my hands busy and not think about the conversation ahead. Setting the table, I pulled out the best china, a wedding gift from Esther's parents, white plates with a blue border that we only got for special occasions, anniversaries, Christmas, Priscilla's graduation. Today was a special occasion too, though not a holiday. At 3 hours, the roast was already languishing in the oven, filling the house with an aroma that made my heart ache. How many Sunday lunches had the 3 of us spent around that table? How many conversations, laughter, sometimes tears? Priscilla talked about high school, later college. Esther shared news of neighbors. Me, stories from The Road. We were a family. By 3:30, everything was ready. I changed into a clean shirt, combed my hair, and sat in a chair in the living room, waiting for the doorbell to ring. The envelope from the lawyer was in the dresser drawer, ready for its hour. They were 20 minutes late. I heard a car pull up, doors slamming. Noah was saying something, Priscilla answering sharply. They were clearly arguing. Then the bell rang. I opened the door and tried to smile. "Hi, Daddy." Priscilla kissed me on the cheek. She looked tense, but she tried to hide it. "Mr. Tanner." Noel held out his hand for a handshake. In his other hand, he held a bottle of wine. "Sorry I'm late." Corks. I accepted the bottle and gestured for them to come in. Red wine, expensive. Noel was always trying to impress with his choice of alcohol. "It smells good," Priscilla said as she entered the house. "Did you cook?" "Grandma Helen's roast," I answered. For a moment, something flashed in her eyes. A recognition, perhaps a shadow of a memory. But she quickly got over herself. "Oh, you didn't have to try so hard, Daddy. It's not hard." We made our way into the living room. Priscilla looked around, noting the cleanliness and order. "Did you clean it yourself? Or did you hire someone?" "I did." "Dad, you need help around the house at your age." "I'm 78, not 98, I said. I'm doing fine." Noel coughed, changing the subject. "Nisarosi's in the garden, Mr. Tanner. Do you tend them yourself?" "Yes." "Impressive. I've never had a talent for gardening." I nodded, not continuing the conversation. Noel always hired a gardener for his lawn, hands perpetually clean and groomed like a mannequin in a shop window. "I'll check on the roast," I said, heading for the kitchen. Priscilla followed me. "Dad, we need to have a serious talk over dinner," I answered without turning around. She sighed but didn't insist. We sat down at the table at 4:30 sharp. I served the roast with vegetables, the fresh bread I'd baked that morning, and a salad. Noel opened the wine he'd brought and poured it into glasses. To family, he toasted, raising his glass. We drank. The wine was tart oy and black currant flavored, too pretentious for a simple Sunday dinner. The first few minutes passed in silence. Priscilla chewed slowly. Noel complimented the food, and I nodded in response. The usual family dinner of people who have nothing to say to each other. Finally, Priscilla put down her fork and took another sip of wine. "Dad, Noel and I are seriously concerned about your condition. I'm perfectly fine. Today you are, but you live alone in a big house. What if you fall? What if you get sick at night? I have a phone and neighbors. Neighbors are no substitute for—" "Professional care," Noel interjected. "We found a great place, Mr. Tanner. Sunny Acres. It's not a nursing home in the traditional sense, more like a senior community with extra services with nurses and caregivers," I added. "With qualified staff," Noel corrected me. "There's a pool, a library, organized excursions. You'll be among your peers." I looked at him over my glasses. "I'm among peers here too. Irwin's on the right, even though he's younger. Mrs. Clark is across the street, 83. Mr. Pike's on the corner. We play chess together on Wednesdays. But they can't provide round-the-clock care," Priscilla insisted. "I don't need round-the-clock care." Priscilla took another big sip of wine. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. "Dad, you're getting older. That's inevitable. We need to plan for the future. I've planned my future. I'm staying here." "That's unrealistic." Her voice rose. "This house is too big, too old. It needs constant maintenance and repairs. You won't be able to." "The day after tomorrow is the anniversary of your mother's death," I interrupted. 1 year since she's been gone." Priscilla was silent for a moment. Then she said in a steady voice, "I remember, Papa. Are you coming to the cemetery? I have an important meeting with a client, but I'll try to stop by tonight." "Important. Meeting," I repeated. "More important than the anniversary of Mom's death." "Dad, don't start. I have work obligations. I can't just drop everything because of what, Priscilla? Because of the memory of the woman who gave birth to you? Who sat by your bedside when you had chicken pox? Who worked overtime to pay for your college? It's not fair." Priscilla set her glass down with such force that the wine spilled out onto the tablecloth. "I loved my mom, but life goes on. I have my own family, my own job. I can't keep looking back." "No, you can't," I agreed. "You're too busy planning for the future, my future without me." There was a heavy silence. Noah looked at his wife, then at me, clearly uncomfortable. "How about dessert?" he suggested. "We bought a cake from that bakery you like, Mr. Tanner. Not now." Priscilla cut him off. She poured herself more wine, her third glass. "Daddy, I'm trying to help. Why do you make everything so complicated? I'm not making anything complicated. I just want to stay in my house. But it's not just your house anymore, she blurted out. Then, realizing what she had said, she covered her mouth with her hand. What do you mean? I asked, though I understood perfectly well. Priscilla hesitated. Then, braving the wine, she continued. After Mom died, this house is mine now. Legally, I'm your only heir. Sooner or later, the house will pass to me. We're just trying to plan it civilized. Null smiled, agreeing with his wife. His eyes glittered with anticipation. I noticed the way he looked around the room as if he were already imagining how he'd remodel it, or more likely how he'd sell it. Civilized, I repeated. You mean put me in a nursing home so you can sell me house? That's not true, Daddy, Priscilla protested, but her eyes showed the truth. We want you to be safe, cared for, and a house. The house takes too much work and too much money. It could be sold and the money used to provide for your comfort at Sunny Acres. It's just, rational. Rational? I nodded. Like everything you do, Priscilla, always a rational approach. I got up from the table. Priscilla and Noel watched me wearily. I walked over to the dresser, opened the drawer, and pulled out a brown envelope. Daddy, what's this? Priscilla asked, visibly tense. A rational solution, I replied, walking back to the table. I placed the envelope in front of them and sat down. Noel and Priscilla looked at it. Open it, I said to my daughter. With trembling hands, Priscilla took the envelope. I could see her knuckles turn white as she pulled out the papers. The paper rustled quietly in the tense silence of the dining room. Noah leaned forward, craning his neck to get a better look at the contents. The first page was the title of the contract in bold letters, Life Annuity Contract. Priscilla ran her eyes over the text, then turned the page, checking signatures, dates, notary seals. Her face gradually lost color. What is this? She asked in a whisper, as if afraid to hear the answer. Exactly what it says, I answered calmly. A lifetime lease between me and Erwin Hall, our neighbor on the right, the programmer. Noel raised his eyebrows. The one who lives alone? Yes, that one. Priscilla continued to study the documents, turning the pages with growing horror. I don't understand. You sold the house to Erwin? Not exactly sold. I pointed to the first paragraph. It's an annuity contract. I transfer ownership of the house to Erwin, and he agrees to pay me a monthly sum for the rest of my life. Plus, I retain the right to live in the house for life. But why? She looked at me, and there was genuine incomprehension in her eyes. Because I want to make sure I spend the rest of my days in my own house, not in Sunny Acres or someplace like that. I paused. And then I want to make sure that this house goes to someone who will take care of it and not sell it at the first opportunity. Priscilla turned even paler, if that was even possible. You heard everything the day you came to get the pills. Yes, I nodded. I heard enough. No coughed nervously. Mr. Tanner, you misunderstood. We were speaking hypothetically. Don't lie, Null. I cut him off. At least have the dignity to tell the truth now. He fell silent, averting his gaze. Priscilla continued to study the documents as if hoping to find some mistake, some loophole. So that's why you asked about going to the cemetery, she said at last, to see if I was worthy of an inheritance. No, Priscilla. I was asking because it's an important date, because your mother deserves to have her daughter visit her grave on the anniversary of her death. But you're right about one thing. I already knew you weren't getting the house. The decision was made earlier. When? Her voice was shaking. 3 weeks ago, I met with Mr. Patterson, our family lawyer. He prepared all the documents. Irwin agreed right away. This Erwin, Noel interjected, finally pulling himself together. What's she getting? A house below market value, I suppose. That's none of your business, I replied. But if you're interested, it's a fair price. Mr. Patterson insisted on an independent appraisal. What's the amount? Priscilla turned to the financial. Part of the contract. $150,000? That's ridiculous. The house is worth at least $350,000 even in its condition. The market price in a normal sale is $30,000, I corrected. But this isn't a regular sale. Irwin will get full title only when I die. Until then, he'll pay me $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month. Priscilla shook her hands. Daddy, you gave the house away for next to nothing. That money. It's nothing compared to what it's worth. It's enough for me. I have a pension. I have savings. $1,000 a month is a nice raise. I don't need more. But Aisha paused, then started again. But we could get so much more by selling it. Exactly, Priscilla. We could have sold it, but it's my house, and I've decided not to sell it, but to enter into an annuity contract. Priscilla looked at me with an expression that gradually changed from shock to anger. You did it to spite me, she said in an accusing tone. To punish me. No, I shook my head. I did it to protect myself and to fulfill a promise I made to your mother. What promise? She made me promise on her last day that I would not let her take the house away from me, that our home would go to someone who loved it as much as we did. And you decided that this Irwin would love the house more than me. Her voice rose. I grew up here. This is my home, too. The house you were going to sell the first chance you got, I reminded her. The house that was just an asset to you. You had no right. She pounded her fist on the table. It's my mother's inheritance. Your mother wanted you to inherit the family values, not just the property. He remained calm, though everything inside was clenching with pain. She would have wanted you to remember your family, your roots, that money is not the most important thing. Don't you dare speak for her! Priscilla was almost screaming. You don't know what she would have wanted. I was married to her for 52 years. My voice remained quiet. I think I knew her better than anyone. Noel, who'd been watching our exchange of remarks with growing concern, decided to intervene. Mr. Tanner, perhaps we could discuss this quietly. Contracts can be terminated if all parties agree. Perhaps we could offer this Irwin some compensation for the inconvenience. No, I shook my head. The contract is signed and registered. Irwin already owns the house. I retain the right to live here for life, and when I die, the house passes to him. That can be challenged in court. Noel turned to threats. We can prove that you were, out of your mind when you signed it, or that you were tricked, taken advantage of because of your age. You can try. I smiled. Mr. Patterson had anticipated this reaction. Before signing the contract, I had a full medical examination by independent doctors. All the reports are attached to the documents. I'm completely fit, sane, and of sound mind. That Irwin, Priscilla almost hissed. He manipulated you, gained your trust. He set the whole thing up. Irwin didn't even know about the pact until I came to him with the offer, I said. He refused at first, said it wasn't right, but I insisted. Why? Dee, Priscilla asked, and for the first time, there was a note of despair in her voice. Why not me? I'm your daughter, because Irwin was there when your mother was dying. I looked her straight in the eye. He drove us to the doctors when you were too busy. He brought groceries when I couldn't leave Esther alone. He sat with her when I needed to rest. Where were you, Priscilla? Where were you, Noel? They were silent. Priscilla lowered her eyes. Noel nervously adjusted Heisty. You came once a week for half an hour, I continued. Always in a hurry, always with excuses. Urgent meeting, important client, deadline, and Irwin made time even though he was just a neighbor, not blood. We have work obligations, Nell began to justify. We all have jobs, I interrupted. But when someone close to you dies, you make time if you want to. Priscilla finally looked up. They were full of tears. I don't know if they were genuine or not. I love my mom, she said in her own way. I know, I nodded. But you loved her from a distance conveniently when it didn't interfere with your plans. It's not fair, Dad. Maybe it isn't, but it's true. We sat in silence. Noel tapped his fingers nervously on the table, Priscilla wiping away her tears. I felt strangely calm, as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Finally, Noel broke the silence. Well, I think we need to study these documents more carefully. Perhaps we should consult with our lawyer. You can study them all you want, I shrugged, but the contract is impeccable. Mr. Patterson is an experienced lawyer and he's anticipated every possible claim. We'll try anyway. Noel stood up from the table. Priscilla, we have to go. She didn't move, still staring at the documents. When did you plan this? She asked quietly. After I overheard you talking about selling the house. But to be honest, the idea came up before that. When you started bringing in brochures about nursing homes. When you started talking about how hard it was to maintain such a big house. When you started talking about sustainable solutions, I was worried about you, she said, but without much conviction. No, Priscilla, you were worried about the inheritance. About how quickly you could sell the house after I died, or even before she did by sending me to Sunny Acres. She didn't deny it, and that was more eloquent than any words. What do you expect us to do now? Noel asked. That we'll just accept it and carry on as if nothing had happened? I don't expect anything, I answered honestly. You can keep visiting me if you want. You can try to challenge the contract, though it's useless. You may never come again. It's up to you. It's over. Priscilla stood up at last. You've ruined our family. No. I shook my head. The family was ruined when you started seeing your father as a burden and the family home as a source of income. She gathered up the papers and stuffed them back into the envelope. I'm taking these, she said. Our lawyer will go over every line. Please, I nodded. I have copies, both Mr. Patterson's and Irwin's. Priscilla grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Noel followed her but stopped at the threshold and turned around. You're going to regret this, Mr. Tanner. No, Noel. I looked him straight in the eye. The only thing I regret is that I didn't do it sooner. That I didn't see you both for who you are. He pressed his lips together but didn't say anything. A moment later, the door slammed shut behind them. I was alone in the silence of the house. Uneaten dinner on the table, unfinished wine in the glasses. I slowly began to clear away the dishes, feeling neither triumph nor sadness, only fatigue and a strange relief. About half an hour later, the doorbell rang. For a moment I thought it was Priscilla returning. Maybe she had come to her senses. Maybe she wanted to scandalize some more. But on the doorstep stood Irwin Hull, my neighbor, and now the formal owner of my house. I saw them leave, he said. Judging by the look on their faces, the conversation had been uneasy, quite predictable. I invited him in. Would you like some coffee or wine? They left a lot of it. Coffee, if I may. We went into the kitchen. Irwin sat at the table while I fiddled with the coffee maker. They're going to challenge the contract, I said without turning around. I know. Mr. Patterson warned me about that possibility. But he's sure the paperwork's in order. They could cause trouble, especially Noel. He's got connections. Let them try. Irwin shrugged. I'm not afraid of anything. I know I did the right thing in agreeing to this treaty, and it's not about the money. I put a cup of coffee in front of him and sat down across from him. Thank you, Irwin, for everything. You're welcome, Alfred. Esther was a wonderful woman, and you deserve to spend the rest of your days in your own home, not in some retirement community. We sat in comfortable silence, sipping coffee. Two people not related by blood, but closer than many relatives. You know, Irwin finally said, my mother always said that family is not about those who are related by blood, but about those who are there for you when you need them, who care without a second thought, without expectation of reward. A wise woman, your mother. Yes, Hesmeled. It's a shame Priscilla doesn't realize that. She's changed, I sighed. Or maybe I just didn't want to see what she had become. Parents are always blind to their children's shortcomings. She might come to her senses, Erwin suggested. When she realizes she can't get the house back, maybe she'll start to value her relationship with you. Maybe. I nodded, though I didn't believe it. But I won't wait. I'd spent enough of my life hoping she'd change. We finished our coffee and Erwin left, promising to stop by tomorrow. I was alone in a house that wasn't legally mine anymore, but felt more mine than ever. I sat in Esther's chair for a long time, looking at the pictures on the walls. Our wedding. Little Priscilla on her bicycle, Esther in the rose garden, my life in the frames. I kept my promise, Esty, I whispered into the void. The house will stay in good hands. I don't know if she heard me. I don't know if there's anything after death, but in that moment, I felt a strange peace, as if the weight of the past was finally beginning to let go of me. Perhaps Priscilla and Noel will still try something. Perhaps there would be scandals, threats, even a trial. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the future. The house was protected, I was protected. And in this strange, twisted world where daughter becomes stranger and neighbor becomes family, I had finally found my way. 3 months had passed since that Sunday dinner. It was a hot July, even for Hawaiian gardens. I sat on the veranda in an old wicker chair, sipping iced lemonade, and watched the neighborhood children playing outside. Their ringing laughter reminded me of the time when Priscilla was a little girl, and the whole world seemed full of possibilities. Since that day, Priscilla hadn't called. Not once. I knew she was angry, but still her silence hurt more than I expected. 50 years of fatherhood erased with one decision. Although, to be honest, the eraser started much earlier. Maybe when she met Noel, or even earlier when she left for college and got her first taste of independence. It's hard to say. Noel, however, didn't disappear completely. A week after we spoke, he dropped by unannounced. He parked his shiny Audi in front of the house and approached with that cocky smile that always annoyed me. "Mr. Tanner," he held out his hand, which I reluctantly shook. "How are you?" "Fine," I answered, not inviting him in. We stood on the doorstep like that. I thought we should talk. He lowered his voice as if he were sharing a secret. "Without Priscilla, she's very upset and not really rational right now. And you're not thinking rationally. It wasn't a question. I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone." He adjusted his tie. "I showed the agreement to a friend of mine. He specializes in real estate and probate law. And what did your friend say? That the contract was quite well written. He was clearly disappointed. But there are certain points that could be interpreted in a number of ways, such as like the maintenance clause. This Erwin is obligated to maintain the house, but it's not defined exactly what constitutes good housekeeping." "We could pick on what?" I interrupted. "That Erwin missed the lawn the wrong way, the wrong color of paint for the fence." Nell hesitated. "Look, I'm just trying to find a way out of this. Priscilla's very attached to this house. It's her childhood attachment." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. So much so that she wanted to sell it the first chance she got. It wasn't like that. It was Noel. "I heard your conversation, remember? As soon as the house passes to us, we'll put it on the market. Your words, not mine." At least he had the good conscience to look embarrassed. "Look, Mr. Tanner, people say things in the heat of the moment. Not everything has to be taken literally. Maybe we could just, start over. Forget this unpleasant episode. What's that supposed to mean?" I crossed my arms over my chest. "You think I'm going to break my pact with Irvine and let you control my future? We could come to a compromise?" No made a conciliatory gesture. "For example, you live in the house as you wanted, but after you're gone, the house goes to Priscilla." "The deal's already done, Noel. The house legally belongs to Erwin. I couldn't change that even if I wanted to. There are always ways." He winked as if we were a complexities. "My friend says that if all parties agree, a new contract can be drawn up that nullifies the previous one. And what does Irwin get? I raised an eyebrow. Compensation for the inconvenience? Sure. No perked up, sensing my interest. We could offer him, say, 20,000, 30. That's good money for just signing a piece of paper. I shook my head. You don't understand, Noel. It's not about them money. Not for me. Not for Irwin. It's about principle. It's about respect. It's about keeping the promise I made to Esther. Esther's gone, he said softly. But the effect was like a slap. Go away, Noel. I opened the door wider to get inside. And don't come back with any more offers like that. You're making a mistake. He tried to hold the door open. Priscilla is your daughter, your blood. Do you really want her to hate you? I don't want to be loved for a property to inherit, I replied. If Priscilla can't love me simply as a father without a house to add to it, then maybe she never really did. I closed the door in his face. Through the window, I saw him stand on the doorstep for another minute, then turn around and walk away to his car. He never came again. Instead, he started getting calls from different lawyers. They all introduced themselves as family friends or Mr. Barnett's colleagues. All wanted to just talk about my situation. I stopped answering unfamiliar numbers. One day, even a man from Senior Citizen Social Services came to visit. Said he had received an anonymous call about a possible case of financial abuse of an elderly person. I showed him all the paperwork, invited Irwin in, and together we explained the situation. The social worker left, satisfied that I was acting of my own free will and sanity. Irwin warned me that Noel had been trying to contact him directly, offering compensation for the termination of the contract. First 30,000, then 50,000. Irwin refused to even talk to him. He doesn't realize that not everything in this world is bought and sold, Irwin told me as we sat on the veranda that evening. There are some things that money can't measure. People like N will never understand that, I replied. To them, everything has a price. Everything can be bought or sold, including relationships. Irwin started coming over to my place more often. We played chess, watched old movies, sometimes just sat in silence. He worked from home, writing some software for big companies, and his schedule was flexible. Every first day of the month, he brought an envelope with money, $1,000 in cash, as we had agreed. I offered to switch to a wire transfer, but he insisted on bringing the money in person. It's not just a financial transaction, he explained. It's a symbol of our agreement, our word. In June, I turned 79. For the first time in 50 years, Priscilla didn't wish me a happy birthday. No call, no card. I pretended it didn't bother me, but Irwin saw right through it. She'll come around, he said as we ate dinner on the veranda. He'd grilled steaks and brought a cake from the same bakery where Priscilla always bought me a present. Give her time. I'm not sure. I shook my head. She'd always been stubborn like me. Then she has enough strength to admit her mistake. Irwin smiled. Someday. That night after Irwin left, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling thinking about my life, about the decisions that had brought me to this moment, about the roads I'd traveled, the places I'd seen, the people I'd met, about Esther, who has always been my compass, about Priscilla, who had been my pride and was now a source of pain. I didn't regret my decision about the house. It was the right thing to do. But I did regret that my relationship with my daughter had gone so far that such a decision had become necessary. In July, Mr. Patterson, our family lawyer, called out of the blue. Mr. Tanner? His voice sounded concerned. I've received a request from your daughter's attorney. They want copies of all the documents related to your annuity agreement. And what did you tell them? That I can only provide what's public information. Everything else is protected by attorney-client privilege. He paused. But I thought I should warn you. They're not giving up. I know, I sighed. Noel isn't one to take defeat lightly. They won't be able to challenge the contract, Mr. Patterson assured me. We've made it perfectly, but they might make trouble. What kind of trouble? Well, they could try to prove that you're incompetent, They could sue for guardianship. Then all your decisions, including financial decisions, would be controlled by a guardian, which would be Priscilla. I nodded understandingly, most likely. But don't worry, they have no grounds. You've passed the medical examination. We have all the reports. I just wanted you to be prepared in case they go that route. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. After that conversation, I became more attentive to my health. I went to the doctor regularly, followed his recommendations, even started exercising in the morning. I didn't want to give Priscilla and Noel any reason to question my ability to function. Erwin took action, too. Installed security cameras around the perimeter of the house. For your safety, he said. I knew he was actually worried that Nell might do something about it. What exactly? It was hard to say. Maybe try to prove that I wasn't taking proper care of the house, or that Erwin wasn't fulfilling his obligations under the contract. In August, during our usual chess game, Erwin suddenly asked, "Do you regret your decision, Alfred?" I looked at the board, considering not only my next move, but also my answer. "No," I said, at last, moving my rook. I wish I'd done it sooner, that I hadn't seen Priscilla and Noel for who they were. Parents always want to see the best in their children. Erwin rubbed his chin thoughtfully. My mother believed until her last days that I'd come to my senses and get married and have children, though I told her many times that I was happy alone. Esther and I never pressured Priscilla. I sighed. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe we spoiled her too much. Don't blame yourself. Erwin made a horse move. It's up to each man to choose what kind of man he wants to be. Check. By the way, I was studying the board, figuring out my defenses. You know, Erwin, I always thought family was blood, that there was no stronger bond than that between parents and children. But now I've moved the king. Now I realize that real family is the people who are there for you, who care without a second thought. Like Esther cared for you. Yes, I smiled at the memory, and how you took care of us in the last months of her life. I was just being a good neighbor. Irvine shrugged. No, you were more than a neighbor. You were family, a real family. We ended the game in silence. Erwin won as usual. He had an analytical mind, able to think several moves ahead. I played more by intuition, which rarely worked against his methodical approach. After he left, I sat on the veranda watching the sun set over the horizon. The evening was warm, with a slight breeze bringing the scent of jasmine from Mrs. Clark's garden across the street. I thought about Erwin's words, about everyone choosing what kind of family they wanted to be, about how true family is not defined by blood, but by actions, by caring, by being present in times of need. Priscilla made her choice. I made mine. And while it was painful to realize our paths had diverged, I couldn't force her to be the daughter I wanted her to be. I couldn't make her appreciate what was important to me. The next day, the mailman brought a registered letter from Priscilla's lawyer. They were notifying me of their intention to sue for a declaration of incapacity and guardianship. The grounds cited were irrational financial behavior indicative of possible cognitive impairment. I called Mr. Patterson, who, as promised, was not surprised. "We're ready for this, Mr. Tanner," he assured me. "We have all the necessary documents, doctor's reports, but be prepared that the process may be unpleasant." "What do you mean?" "They'll use everything they can to prove that you're incapable of making rational decisions. They'll question your neighbors, maybe even follow you, look for any signs of strange behavior. Let them try." I was calm. I had nothing to hide. That same night, I told Erwin everything. He listened carefully, then asked, "Are you sure you want to go all the way? It could be very unpleasant for you and for Priscilla." "I didn't start this fight," I answered, "but I will finish it. It's a matter of principle." "Then I'm with you." He held out his hand, and I shook it until the end. The next weeks passed in a strange calm. No new letters, no calls. Mr. Patterson said they were probably gathering information, preparing for the case, or maybe trying a different approach. September brought the first cooler days. The leaves on the trees began to yellow, and I spent more time in the garden preparing the roses for winter. Erwin often joined me, though he admitted he didn't understand much about gardening. My mother loved flowers, he said, as he helped me trim wilted buds, but I never had a taste for them. Computers, code, that's my thing. Understandable, logical, but plants, they live by their own rules. That's their beauty, I replied. They don't obey our logic, but they have their own. Esther always said that roses are like people. They need care, but they thank you with beauty if you treat them with love. She was a wise woman. Erwin smiled. Yes, I nodded. She would have approved of my choice. About the house, about you, in mid-September. The unexpected happened. I was sitting on the porch reading the paper when I heard the sound of a car pulling up. Noel's familiar Audi pulled up in front of the house, but Priscilla got out of the car instead, alone. She walked slowly to the veranda, stopped at the steps. She looked tired, gaunt. "Hi, Daddy," she said quietly. "Priscilla?" I nodded without getting up from my chair. "It's been a long time. May I come in?" I gestured for her to come in. She came up the steps and sat in the chair across from me. We were silent, studying each other like strangers. "You look good," she finally said. "Healthy." "I feel fine," I replied. Despite my attempts to prove otherwise, she sighed. "Daddy, I didn't come here to fight. Why did you come here? To talk alone, without lawyers, without Noel?" She paused. "I got a letter from your lawyer. He provided all the medical reports. You're perfectly healthy, and the court will never find you incompetent. I know. I've decided to withdraw the suit." She looked at her hands. It was wrong. I was angry, hurt, but that's no excuse. I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "Dad, I'm not asking you to give the house back. I understand that the contract was made and you can't break it even if you wanted to." She looked up. "But I want us to try to repair the relationship. You're my father, the only parent I have left." "What about Noel?" I asked. "Does he know you're here?" "No." She shook her head. We're going through a rough patch. He still insists on continuing the fight for the house, but I've realized it's not worth losing my father." I looked at her, trying to see if she was sincere. There were tears in her eyes, but I'd seen them before. Priscilla had always been able to cry on command ever since she was a little girl. "What's changed, Priscilla?" I asked bluntly. "Why now?" She was silent for a while, gathering her thoughts. "I've been rethinking a lot of things these months," she said at last. "I remembered how my mom always said that family was the most important thing, that there's nothing more precious than the people who love you. I lost my mom. I don't want to lose you too because of my decision about the house." "No." She shook her head. "Because of mine, because of the way I reacted, because of the way I let Noel convince me that fighting over property was more important than our relationship." I sighed. I wished I'd believed her completely. I wish it were that simple. "Priscilla, I'm glad you came," I said honestly. "And I'll always be your father no matter what happens. But trust isn't built in one conversation." "I know." She nodded. "I'm ready to prove that I've changed, that it's our relationship that matters to me, not the house or the inheritance. Then prove it." I looked her straight in the eye. "Not with words, with actions. Come to me, call me, be there for me. Not because you need something, but because you want to be a part of my life." "I will, Daddy." She reached out and touched my hand. "I promise." We sat like that for a while in silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant laughter of children. I don't know if I believed her completely, but I wanted to. I wanted to give her a chance. After all, despite everything, she was my daughter, my blood, part of me and Esther. As she was leaving, I said, The day after tomorrow is the anniversary of your mother's death. I'll be at the cemetery at 2 in the afternoon. She nodded. I'll be there, Daddy. I will. I watched her get in the car and drive away. I don't know if she'll keep her word. I don't know if she's really changed or if this is just another tactic, but I gave her a chance. I had the last word and I chose mercy. Because at the end of the day, when the sun goes down and the shadows grow longer, when the years take their toll and the memories grow brighter than the present, the most important thing is not who is right or wrong. The most important things are the people we love and the moments we share with them. Esther understood that. Maybe now, Priscilla understood it too. And maybe someday I'll realize that losing an argument but keeping a relationship alive is also a kind of victory in this strange, confusing world where daughters become strangers and neighbors become family, where money is sometimes valued above love and principles above forgiveness. I have found my way a path that allows me to stay true to myself and my promises, but keep the door open for those who want to return. And in that perhaps is true justice. Not in punishing the guilty, but in giving them a chance to make amends. Not in having the last word, but in having the right word.